By the way, side note, there's a little girl in front of me. She hated the fact that I was cheering for the Judgment Day. Like, every time I was like, yeah, Dominic, let's
I
go.
love it.
She turned around and gave me the most evil look, and her dad was just like, don't start a fight with people behind us, babe. Relax.
It was a packed house in Atlanta for Raw tonight, and we talked to someone who was in the building on the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling post-show, and he conveyed what it was like when Cody got beat up in front of his family, and how enthusiastic were fans. Were there boos piped in for Dominic, or is the crowd really that into booing him? What happened before the show? What match took place? What happened afterwards? Was the crowd disappointed they didn't get to sing Seth's song, or did they get to sing Seth's song? We found out a lot from talking to our on-site correspondent today on the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show, and we're bringing you that session here. You can hear the whole post show by going to your podcast app and searching Wade Keller. You'll see a red logo and a blue logo show up. Subscribe to both, but the red logo is our post shows following Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown, and Collision. The blue shows are our flagships, our interviews, and some flashback shows. Subscribe to both. They're free. I think you'll like them all. But first things first, we want to talk to our on-site correspondent and give you an idea of what it was like to be in the building, since most of you were not. Boom period for WWE right now with attendance, and tonight a really big crowd, an enthusiastic crowd, and they were into a lot. So it was fun talking to Chris, who was in the building for us. He's been an on-site correspondent for our podcast before. You can obviously subscribe to those shows. We hope you do. Hope you're also checking out pwtorch.com. Got a lot of news that you won't find anywhere else on a wide variety of topics. I put up a Keller's Take earlier today, looking at Collision and how it's a different show and what's going on behind the scenes to make it different. Is it an accident that it's so different? Is it deliberate? What's the strategy? Check that out along with the latest ratings reports with perspective and minute-by-minute analysis you won't find anywhere else, and more backstage news. That's our website, pwtorch.com. Now, let's get to that segment with our on-site correspondent. My co-host that you hear is Darren Lilly. He covers Impact for pwtorch.com and has a podcast dedicated to Impact also. That's the other voice you hear. Bring on our on-site correspondent who is in the building tonight. Chris, welcome. How was the show?
The show was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking time to talk with us. How full was the building, really? I know they were heading towards a really big crowd. WWE touted on commentary it was a sellout. They did some wide angles of that beautiful arena that looked great. But you were in it. Were there empty seats they were hiding from us?
I mean, if you could count, there'd probably be 100 empty seats that I saw, but that's the entire arena. Like, it was full all the way to the top.
And you've been to that arena before for big shows. How was the enthusiasm of the crowd, and how did it feel? I know how different it feels with my hometown arenas when it's packed and enthusiastic versus, 1/3, not quite half full, sparse. Is it just a lot more fun than usual to be in a building that full?
So I went with my buddy Joey, and I was telling him halfway through, I was like, I can't remember the last time we've been to a WWE TV taping that the crowd has been that into it.
Yeah.
We went to WWE Day One, and they've had WrestleMania here and stuff like that. But as far as a regular TV taping, this was probably the liveliest crowd since AEW's first time here when it was Cody and Wardlow in the cage.
Interesting. So who was most over? Was it Cody by a distance, or was it a cluster of others and maybe a couple even more so?
Yeah, I think they kind of like Cody a little bit in Atlanta. Just a little. Rhea was really over. I mean, even when they showed video packages during the commercial breaks, they were doing the top 25 Instagram photos, and they went through the entire list. And when they got to number one, it was Rhea and Dom, and the crowd just blew up, split with boos and cheers for her and boos for Dominic.
That's great. So how about Cody, the pop for Cody was there any mixed response to it, first of all? Or was it just, we love you and everything you're saying we're into? Or was there any kind of pushback at all?
No, there was no pushback from Cody. And I've been saying for a while, like, I'm kind of tired of Cody coming out in a three-piece suit. So him coming out in ring gear and his T-shirt cut all up, it just looked cooler.
Yeah, good
and
point.
It looked like, I don't know, it just made you want to cheer for him even more, even if you were there to be like, to kind of go against the grain. There was nobody going against Cody. I mean, after the fact, there was a dad walking with his kids, it was like, y'all told me Cody was good. He got beat up in front of his mom, just kind of teasing them. But other than that, it was 100%. Everybody was behind Cody tonight.
Darren, do you have a question for Chris?
Let's see. Did the Rhodes family stay out there the whole show? I'm just curious.
Ooh, I didn't even pay attention to that. I do know that the entire time Brock was putting it down on Cody, there was a cameraman right in their face. I mean, they were trying to get every reaction that the mom was making for it. And that was one thing I noticed tonight was the camera crew they are right there. I'm talking like 6 inches from the people's face when they're looking for reactions for them. But I don't know if they stayed out there the entire night. I really didn't pay attention to it.
My hunch, Darren, is that they rewarded some fans with upgraded tickets from the upper deck after that angle was over. Usually, like Stephanie got a bad rep, and others too, like in NXT when they're like, "Hey, look who's here," and it was like they were there for like the 15 seconds that they're on camera. And people would sort of resent. Oh, you look like you're here to watch the show, but you're not really here to watch the show. So yeah, my hunch is that they probably didn't stick around the whole time. And really, storyline wise, they should be back there checking on Cody. How are you doing, bud? We got to be here to support you. So I wouldn't even, storyline wise, hold it against them. But obviously, they're not going to have empty seats, so they had some seat fillers who had a very lucky, upgrade. Yeah. So
related.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, Darren, please go.
Related to that, was the crowd bummed when they saw the hometown hero getting beaten up? Did it take the crowd down or out of it, do you think?
So when the first chair shot happened, you could hear it, but you couldn't see it. I don't know if y'all could see it on TV or not. When Cody went marching backstage looking for Brock, and when Brock showed up, everybody just kind of popped. And they were booing him, of course, and I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but Brock left the ring. Cody was in the ring, and Brock went back in with a chair and hit him again. And then the crowd started chanting for Cody. He finally stood up. He left the chair in the ring, and he walked away on his own, and they kind of popped for that. But it wasn't a letdown. I think people were more upset that we didn't think we were going to get to sing Seth Rollins' song by the end of the night. And then he came out, I think, after Raw went off the air. And they kind of, Sammy and KO kind of led everybody in it. But as far as Cody, I think people were fine with him coming out, cutting his promo, and then getting to see Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, the last thing we saw on TV with Brock was Lesnar yelling, "Challenge accepted, I'll see you at SummerSlam, bitch." And that was the end of the TV coverage of it. So
yeah.
Sounds like quite a bit happened after that.
It was so loud, we didn't hear any of that.
Oh, okay.
We saw Brock say something to him, but we couldn't hear any of it. So like I said, Brock left the ring, then he turned back around and came out and hit Cody with the chair again. And then, like I said, the crowd started chanting for Cody, and he finally stood up, and they kind of popped, and then he left.
Was there any crowd reaction tonight, Chris, that surprised you, either louder or softer than you would have expected?
Like I said earlier, I was surprised by how energetic the crowd was. We got there about 7 o'clock, and main event started at 7:30. And Tozawa's music hit, and you would have thought The Rock came out. People were so excited to see Tozawa.
Oh, I love it.
And I have no idea why.
The first babyface always gets a pop. Everybody wants, if they're in a dark match, everybody wants to be the first babyface out.
He ended up losing to, what's that guy's name? That was with Boss? Riddick Moss. He lost to Riddick Moss, spoiler alert. And Riddick Moss his nose is bleeding for some reason. I don't know what exactly happened to it, but Tozawa got a big pop. So that was, to me, the most surprising part. And then, like I said, Rhea, every time they showed Rhea Ripley, the crowd just lost it for her.
Yeah. Did it seem like there was too much Judgment Day or just the right amount? Because, that we're talking earlier in the show, the faction just seems so over. Raw's doing well. Cody's obviously really over. Lesnar's a big star. But Raw, when you think about in there's Seth and there's Becky, the Judgment Day feels like they're as big of a reason that that Raw, the brand, feels hotter than it's been in a while. I think they're as much of a factor, or right in the mix with Seth and Cody and Becky as an X. So what was it? Was it like seeing the Judgment Day be a big part of the show?
yeah, being in person, seeing them is so much different because the lighting changes. They got this big logo that they have in the background while they're out there. They got a big spotlight on them. Like I said, the light changes. I think the arena's like almost completely purple, and they got cool music, and they all walk out. They just look like four badasses, right? And it's like, man, I didn't think I'd like them, and here I am cheering for. By the way, side note, there's a little girl in front of me. She hated the fact that I was cheering for the Judgment Day. Like every time I was like, yeah, Dominic, let's go.
I love it.
She turned around and gave me the most evil look, and her dad was just like, don't start a fight with people behind us, babe. Relax. So, yeah, the kids hate Judgment Day, and a lot of the adults kind of thought they were cool. But when I tell you the arena booed Dominic so loudly every time he got ready to talk or do a move or do a little Eddie Guerrero shake, like, that guy just, it was just fun to boo him, man. It was fun to see that in person. I was one of the people that thought, oh, they're just piping in all that. No, they didn't pipe anything in. That was that was legit.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Was there a low point of the night?
The low point of the night probably would have been the women's tag match because, you know, Raquel got beat up beforehand, and you kind of knew it was going to be what it was. So myself and a bunch of other people kind of went to use the restroom and get refills or whatever. And then once the title change happened, people popped. But during the match itself, it was just kind of like, it would have been better if Raquel hadn't got hurt, and you would have thought there would have been a competitive match. But that was definitely a time where people kind of knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. Darren, anything else you want to ask Chris?
Yeah, I did have a question. A couple weeks ago, our on-site correspondent mentioned that during the commercial break, they had entertainment, like you mentioned the Instagram thing. They said that they had a Hulk Hogan imitation contest, and I thought that was raised some eyebrows here for me personally.
No, they definitely didn't have that.
Okay.
They did have a DX crotch chop camera where everybody was doing the suck it sign. And I'm glad you asked about this. Samantha Irvin is phenomenal. Like, during the commercial breaks, during the ring intros, everything, she put so much into entertaining everybody. She was singing along with the DX song, but there's all kind of entertainment during the commercial breaks. She's leading the charge for it. So, yeah, but there was no Hogan impersonation, and not in Atlanta. We wouldn't play that shit in Atlanta.
Okay.
That's good. Tell us a little bit more, if there is anything more to convey, about what happened after the show went off the air. How long did the Seth song go? How into it was the crowd? Or were people filing out? And was there anything else after that?
I don't know what you all saw, like I said, but Finn Balor came back out when Sammy and KO had won, and he was like, yo, it's three of us, let's go get him. And I don't know what happened with Seth and him backstage, but apparently he won the fight backstage because he came back out. And then Seth's music hits. He comes out, clears the ring, and then they do like a little go-home promo where they're working on a song. And the song was Don't Be So Angry, KO. And everybody sang that, or Don't Be So Angry, Kevin, to the theme of Seth Rollins' song.
Oh my God.
The entire crowd sang that probably 5 minutes. And KO said he loved the song, and they hugged and sent everybody home.
Was there anything else from the crowd in terms of crowd reactions, chants, or anything that's noteworthy or surprised you or was funny? Chants, reactions, signs, drunken fights. Oh, it's not the 80s.
There were a lot of signs, more than I thought, and a lot of them had to do with Rhea and Dom. Almost everyone. There's a lot of women there wanting to be mommy's friends with signs like that. I'll leave it at that. There were signs that they couldn't put on the screen.
Oh, funny.
And yeah, there was I don't know if you've been to a show recently, but everybody woos whenever it gets really crowded. They do the Ric Flair woo. That's been replaced by from LA Knight. There's some guy always stands up and cuts a little LA Knight promo, and then everybody starts chanting, yeah. As we're leaving the arena, there's a guy like, when I say dummy, you say yeah, and I'm like, no, I'm not saying that. You just called me a dummy, but of course everybody else did it. So,
the things people do to be part of a chant, part of the ritual. Yep.
And then, one of the things that I pay attention to when you have on-site correspondent is the merch stand.
Yes.
And stuff like that. They always have Atlanta merchandise here. They had a Georgia's own Cody Rhodes red T-shirt with his logo on it, which I got. And then they had like an Atlanta 316, and they had an Atlanta Hawks WWE RAW. They had a Georgia Bulldogs world title because they're the national champions. They had an Atlanta Braves world title and autographed Cody Rhodes weight belt. But the majority of the shirts that I saw people actually wearing there's a lot of Stone Cold, a lot of Rock, a lot of NWO, and a lot of Bloodline stuff. There's actually one family, and I pointed out to my buddy Joey, the parents had NWO shirts on, and the kids were wearing Bloodline shirts. And it's like, look at that. That's adorable, right? Like, you got the NWO parents and the Bloodline kids.
That is awesome. Down. That is awesome. Oh, wow. Yeah, the generational T-shirt identity of pro wrestling fans. You can kind of tell what era people are if they're being nostalgic or current day. Not that there aren't people in their 30s, 40s, 50s wearing Bloodline T-shirts, but there's not you can tell from T-shirts the age of fans with a pretty good guesswork. But why not keep cashing in? I'm sure Rock and Austin are happy with the merch checks that come from that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the majority of those shirts, though, didn't look like they were new. They looked like they'd been around for about 20 years.
That's
so a lot of those shirts, people that were coming out that had those shirts were, not in a bad way. Just you could tell that it was an original shirt they had got back in the 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, I guess that happens. You got the stack of T-shirts that aren't in circulation that you dig down deep in the dresser drawer to find when you're going to the wrestling show. That works too. Were people into the Viking Raiders Alpha Academy match? I mean, that looked like a lot of fun. I mean, just nonstop spots in action and brawling. But and was Maxine still really over with this crowd tonight?
So when you asked about the lull point in the show earlier, this was the part I forgot about. They brought the Viking Raiders I guess you would arena props or whatever out, and they set them up all around the ring. And I feel like we didn't have anything in the ring for about 20 minutes. And that's when people kind of got real, quiet. And then about halfway through the match, when Gable did that moonsault and then picked whichever one of the Raiders up and German suplexed them off of that, the crowd woke up really fast after that. But that match was fun. That match was good. But it was just, we waited so long, and the props sat out there for so long. And it was just like, we knew the Viking Raiders were coming, and you knew Sarah Logan was going to come out looking like her feet didn't smell good, so it was just like a lull in the.
I love it.
A lull in the thing.
Yeah, that's great. Talk about the crowd reaction for Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey, because it sure seems if there was ever a desire to have it be a pick'em or have Ronda be the sympathetic one, because Baszler did attack her from behind to turn, the crowd, to me, through TV, sounded like they were very pro Baszler and wanted no part of Ronda Rousey as she spoke really fast. What was it like in the building?
So, first off, Ronda Rousey, she had the same script they give Excalibur, I think, because she was talking like she was doing a Micro Machines commercial. Like, we couldn't understand anything she said.
Yeah.
But Baszler was the babyface, apparently, and Rousey was playing the heel. The fact that she turned around and was like, no, I'm not fighting you now, and left. Yeah. But Rousey did get a big ovation when we looked up and she was, standing behind us. You can drop me off right here. I'll just walk. But, it was more like Baszler was the babyface and Ronda was the heel, and that was how they did it. Baszler got a real big reaction, though, when she told Ronda she was coming for her. And I couldn't see if security stopped her or what, but she went walking up the aisleway to get to her, and then she ended up never getting her.
Would you did the crowd react to Shinsuke Nakamura's frustration in a way where we sympathize with him or we're not with him on this? Because it's understandable he'd be frustrated, But Ciampa, of course, was conciliatory, and he's like, it's my bad, patting himself on the chest, but it's sort of like, my bad doesn't get you out of bad decisions always. Sometimes there are ramifications for it. How did the crowd react to all that? Because technically, Ciampa ruined a match before it ended, and, he could have waited.
Yeah, they, as far as Nakamura, like, turning and kicking him in the face, they got a big reaction for that, but then it was one of those things again where he was screaming something and there was no microphone and we couldn't hear what he was saying, so the crowd was just kind of like, okay, now what? But they did react big time to him turning around and taking his frustrations out on Ciampa.
Yeah. Darren, anything else you want to ask before we wrap up momentarily here with Chris?
No, that was all I had.
Chris, anything else in your notes or anything else you want to share with us? I know you're familiar with our questions we ask on-site correspondents. Anything else that you were thinking you'd bring up?
I'm going to say no, and I'm actually going to mean no compared to other people that normally say.
Oh, you are a regular.
That's all I got.
You are a regular listener then, yep. Awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking time to talk with us.
Appreciate it, fellas. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.
Yep, you too. So you can be an on-site correspondent. Just email wadekellerpodcast@pwtorch.com. Let us know what show you're going to. In fact, ideally, put the name of the subject line the name of the city in the subject line, and that helps me stay organized. And we'll be in touch and try to line up having you on the show like Chris just was. All right, thanks for listening. You can hear the whole show. We had callers, email input, a lot of conversation. I talked to Darren a little bit at the end of the show about Impact and their Slammiversary pay-per-view. A lot of good stuff on this show. Search Wade Keller on your podcast app. Subscribe to the red logo, and while you're at it, the blue logo. Search PW Torch 2 for the PW Torch Daily Cast. Lots of free podcasts, new stuff every day on all the feeds. Worth checking out. If you like this video and you like our channel, then hit the like button. And if you are interested in hearing more from us, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, and of course, hit the little bell so you get notified when new videos go up. Thank you for watching us here on the YouTube channel, and we'll talk to you next time.